The Arizona State Sun Devils are off to a good recruiting start. Can they fully capitalize after going to the college football playoff?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. Today, I'm going to have Arizona State thoughts, and I'm going to have my guest on here in just a second. But we're going to go over their recruiting class. 2026, the Devils have 18 kids committed. They've had a big priority on recruiting Arizona. How's that going? What are they going for this year in the class? What do they need? Do they have the right quarterback for their future? I certainly think so. We'll break that down. And then we're going to talk about the Devils defending their Big 12 championship. Do they have it in them to go for another run after losing the megastar running back? And are they going to be able to handle having their name circled on everybody's schedule? It's a totally different deal after Arizona State was ranked 16th by the media poll. Way to go, guys, in the Big 12, covering that conference and then winning the league. So to break it all down, to help me figure all of this out, here's my guy, Richie Bradshaw. How you doing, sir?
I am doing good. Just want to throw this out here real quick. I voted on that media poll. I did not have ASU dead last. Do not put me in with that group. I had them like 12th or something. So not dead last, but it's
wild though. It's so wild. It's so
exciting times in Tempe.
Yeah, man. Anyway, just on that, I'm just curious. Did any of y'all that cover the team, that follow the team, that are fans, did anybody really know that Leavitt was going to be really good, or at least thought so? Because it's one thing to have Cam Scatterboo, that's one thing, but when they went play action and when they needed big decisions, they had a young quarterback that nobody really knew much about, and all of a sudden he's picking people apart. Did you guys see that coming?
We definitely thought that we were going to get above average quarterback play. We liked the situation that he was being placed in with Cam Scatterboo, obviously. Jordan Tyson was one of the best kept secrets on the Sun Devils team. He had missed his first season out here in 2023 after transferring from Colorado. He was recovering from a knee injury. He gets on the field this year. Everyone figures out how good he is. But when we look at Sam Leavitt, and this is one of the things that I previewed a lot last year going into the year for Locked On Sun Devils was, he's really good. He's really talented, but how high can you set the expectations for him when he is a redshirt freshman who's only played 4 games and is with a new program? And the first month of the year, he looks solid, but he looks like a redshirt freshman. So you're like, okay, there's stuff to work on. Let's just get through the year, be competitive, and move on. But after the Cincinnati game, which he misses that one, goes in the bye week, and then comes back against Oklahoma State. It was just a completely different quarterback, and he just diced up everyone that he went up against. He crushed BYU. He dominated Iowa State. And all things considered, against how great Texas was last year, I'd say he had a pretty good game against Texas. He just looked like a completely different quarterback from the Peach Bowl to week 1 against Wyoming. So I would tell you, we were expecting him to be quality. Nobody thought that going into 2025, he would have legitimate Heisman Trophy odds.
That's a fair assessment. He didn't have any playing time really, and all of a sudden he's a guy that leading his team into the playoff. That's why college football, though, Richie, is the best sport on earth. It's so unpredictable, and it adds the entertainment value that can't be placed into numeric kind of anyway on a scale or anything else. It's wild. So let's talk recruiting. Jake Fette, quarterback out of El Paso. LSU's made a run at him, and a bunch of other schools. Really good recruit. He's probably the guy everybody's going to want to talk about. If Sam ends up turning pro after this year, just start I doubt he starts as a freshman, but he's probably the next really good guy. Then maybe they take a portal kid. I don't know. But I think Sam will have another good season, and there's a chance he'll leave. Good for him if I'm right on that. But you get a quarterback that is recruited by the likes of LSU that puts things in perspective. I think LSU, with their recent history, kind of knows a thing or two about the quarterback position with 2 Heisman winners. But I'm also curious. ASU's got 18 commitments. They've got 4 guys on the defensive line, 4 on the offensive line. That's the first thing I look at with any class. Are you getting big guys? Are they getting the elite 5-star kids? No, but they're still getting balanced classes. That's the beginning. Like, you're not going to sustain consistent winning without offensive and defensive line recruiting being good. They're doing well there. They also have done a good job. They got 3 DBs. They've got a quarterback. They need to get maybe like 1 or 2 more guys at skill spots, running back, receiver, but that's not super hard to do. And they're recruiting well in states they need to. 8 from Texas, 4 kids from California. And they need to recruit better in Arizona. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, like, this is better than what I expected. And it leads me to my first question. Has NIL improved enough in your eyes, Richie, for them to take yet another step? Maybe flip some kids in the fall, or just if they start off good, which would help recruiting again, if they start this upcoming season well, is NIL going to be enough to get that class? It's ranked like 40th on 24/7 for whatever that's worth. I think it should be higher. I'm surprised it's not, but it's a balanced class. Give me your thoughts on the NIL aspect.
I mean, we're still waiting for it to really take off, and we've seen the gradual baby steps with it. They're certainly a million times ahead of where they were in 2022-23 when they finally established a NIL foundation, collective. There we go, collective. It took them a long time to figure out, hey, we should probably do something about this. We're falling behind. So they have made some massive moves forward since then. But you're also talking about literally zero to be able to get up to where you're at. And there's still a lot of room to grow. But I also look and I see that there are kids who are wanting to stay at ASU because those opportunities are growing for them. You also are benefiting from guys who are just interested in staying here. There was a comment that Sam Levitt made over the summer at a charity event. They asked him, the media was able to be there, and they said, hey, you could have gone somewhere else. Like, it's kind of the least kept secret that teams were contacting you, Jordan Tyson, throwing some NIL dollars at you to leave, and you decided to stay. And he said the craziest thing ever. He was like, what's a few $100,000 when I can stay here and get ready for the pros? And I'm like, Sammy boy, let me tell you what a few $100,000 is, because boy, would I love a few $100,000 in my pocket right now. But I mean, he sees the bigger picture of, this place is going to get me ready to go to the pros. And this is a place that I'm just flat out happy to be at. And that's a really good reflection of your program for these other kids to look and go, maybe it's not about the dollars and cents right away, because if I do the things right, it'll come down the road. But, that's still a hard pitch for kids who are looking to get out and get into college at 17, 18 years old and have some change in their back pocket that they can find at LSU more than they can find at Arizona State. So there's still a lot of room to grow. They are making the improvements. We still have not seen it take that drastic step forward. Like, I understand Texas Tech has oil money, which is one of the reasons why they were able to explode the way they did. But it also turns out that when you just get your boosters to buy into your program very literally, that you can just take off the way they have, because Texas Tech has shot themselves up way up the board because they had the investors throw the money in. So we're waiting for ASU to find those investors, and they're out there. Believe me, they're out there. We have some big, deep pockets out here in the Valley. So it's just a matter of getting them to want to commit to the financial side of things. But you're in the right direction. It's just, when is it going to really take off? I'm not sure, but I know it should be able to. The house settlement should be able to help you keep up a little bit better, at least until further notice.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. When we come back, we're going to discuss in-state recruiting. We're going to talk about what's next with recruiting, and then we're going to transition into the 25 season. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on every game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. If you're looking for a way to have a little more fun, there's a lot of ways you can do it. But whether it's tracking home run race, RBI, Triple Crown opportunities, there are a lot of parlays and different things you can do with FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen or Locked On Sun Devils. I am Brian Smith. This is my guest, Richie Bradshaw. We both enjoy having you here. Thank you once again. Please like and subscribe to both of our shows. Let's talk about the one thing that surprised me so far about ASU's recruiting. And I know, Richie, it surprised you. They've got 2 kids committed in state. They have not hit like the big guys on the inside of the state. Any thoughts about why that? I was really surprised when I went through the list a little bit ago. I'm like, how is that possible after they went to the playoff? Like, that is absolutely befuddling to me. Any thoughts?
The only thing I can really get to is you're still just repairing that image, because if you look 10 years ago at ASU recruiting, if you were an in-state kid, ASU was like number one cream of the crop that these kids wanted to play at. I mean, they were landing some of the highest rated recruits in the state of that decade, like DJ Foster, who's a legendary player at the university, stayed home. Chase Lucas, same thing. He decides to stay home. Like, they were keeping these guys, but towards the end of the Todd Graham era, he started putting a much bigger emphasis on out-of-state recruiting, and particularly in Texas. Now, Kenny Dillingham's doing that, but he's also making sure that he's making the kids that are at home in his backyard know they're wanted. Todd Graham really started putting the emphasis on, we want the Texas kids. And then when Antonio Pierce and Herm Edwards get in, Pierce, of course, being your recruiting head of all of that, they go from Texas to Southern California and they start recruiting that area. And that really alienated the kids in the backyard, who are now like, well, you know, hold on a second. We used to be like the priority here. Like, you guys wanted to keep us home. Like, Alabama and Auburn want to keep their kids in state. Florida State, Miami want to keep their kids in state. Georgia wants to keep their kids in state. How come you guys are so interested in the places around us? And Arizona is a hotbed for recruiting. It is not like they are outside of the top 25 states. Like, they are, Brian, you know more than me. I think it's pretty fair to say that Arizona's top 10 in the country for some of the best high school recruits for football, at least. I don't know. I certainly feel like there's a lot of talented kids, but I won't forget when Herm Edwards, when Brock Purdy took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, he was like, oh yeah, I recruited him. He didn't want to come here, blah, blah, blah. And Brock's like, dude, you made me call me once. Like, it's like that's what we're talking about. Like, that kind of high profile player you didn't care about until they got to be what they are now, with a high paid quarterback and everything. So I think Kenny Dillingham and his crew are still repairing the image that has been tarnished because of the end of the Todd Graham era and the majority of the Herm Edwards era. I'm glad they were still able to get great football players in the meantime, but it hasn't worked out. And now Kenny Dillingham is paying the price for it. But they do have some ideas for how to reconstruct that image. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I mean, I'm with you. We're going into the end of Dilly's fourth recruiting cycle, if we want to count 2023, because he had to do that at the last second. But I mean, 2026, that's your fourth cycle, and we still are not seeing these hometown kids stay. The best they had was Ryland Dillard Allen, and he was committed for less than a month because they had that policy of, hey, when you commit, you don't take other visits. And he was like, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to go to Washington, and then I'm going to commit. And we're like, okay. So I don't know. I'm just waiting for these kids to stay home. But I really do feel like a lot of this is paying for the sins of your past that are not even yours.
There's part of that. A lot of times kids, they grow an allegiance to a school when they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and then they follow them. That's why, like Alabama, there were kids talking about the 2015 to 2018 and all through in the last few years, because they were kids just getting ready to go in to like junior high and stuff, watching them on It's the First Remembrance. So the current staff is winning off of that too, to a certain degree. That's how this works. 6 years from now, this season we just had will probably help ASU quite a bit because it was their first playoff run. Some of the younger kids are going to remember that, but we're not to that point yet. So they got to find a way to manufacture it. And again, for the record, they got 8 kids from Texas. They got 4 from California, but only 2 in state. If they could just shore that up a little bit, that last category, they could have a top 20 class. Like if you get 6 or 7 kids out of the top 10 in Arizona, you're in a whole different ballgame. So there's still work to be done for Arizona State, but I think they need to have another good year to start to get some of those kids. And it'll probably be the 27 and 28 classes, if I was to guess, that they're really going to have a lot of success. But it is what it is. Last thing on the football side of this with recruiting, do you think they're still going to focus on the portal quite a bit and balance it a lot? What are your thoughts on how much you think that Kenny and his staff want to use the portal, at least for this upcoming cycle, in addition to high school? Is it going to be another big class, or what are your thoughts?
I think right now you're kind of forcing yourself to be into a big class, and it's not even to do with the recruiting side of things. It's to do with how many seniors are on this team and how many guys you're going to lose. You're going to lose almost your entire edge rushing room. You're going to lose at least half of your interior defensive line, especially if CJ Fette decides to declare. He's a true junior. He's getting some NFL love. If he declares, that's depleted. You don't have very many linebackers. Your corners can return, but again, there's some NFL love for Keith Abney and Javen Robinson. They will be gone. Your safeties will be gone. Xavier Alford, still such a very interesting case. I think he somehow has 1 more year of eligibility, but he may be out, and there goes basically your whole defense. Offense, 4 of your 5 starters on the offensive liner back, those 4 are gone, plus some of your other depth as well. Jordan Tyson probably declares based off of what he can do. The receiver room is young at least, so you should have most of that. No idea what to do with running back. Kyson Brown, Kanye Udo, and Raleek Brown are all juniors. They could all leave the program. And at quarterback, Sam Levitt has 3 more years of eligibility, including this upcoming year. But if he has the year we think, he could go pro too. So you do have Jake Fette in your back pocket to be the replacement quarterback there. But I mean, that's almost every position that I just went through with you that is going to be depleted, short of tight end, which ASU is recruiting the tight end position better than I think we've ever seen them do. They had a 4-star in the 2024 class, a 4-star in this year's class, and they have 2 4-stars in next year's class, depending on where you look. And they previously had Israel Briggs, who decommitted and went to Miami. So, I mean, they're recruiting tight end very well, but because of how much you're losing, and this class is 18 players, it's not nearly enough to replace everything. You're almost going to be forcing yourself to go through the portal to find those parts. And that's a huge concern in state for the defensive line, because you're losing almost your entire edge rushing room. You're losing Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neal, Justin Wadley. Who knows what happens with Roman Petrie, because he hasn't been on the field this last year. He may not be on the field this year. Like, you could be looking at an entirely new edge rushing room. The defensive line is going to get capped. The linebackers are going to get capped. So you almost are going to have to go through the transfer portal. And you probably were going to have to do that even if you had a 25 high school commitment class. You're going to have to retool that roster. And thankfully, they've been able to retain a lot of the recruits they previously have. The 2 years that Kenny has been here, a lot of those kids are still with the program. And you hope, knock on wood, that they'd be able to do it for a 3rd year. But I think you're looking at next season as likely being a heavy transfer portal class, which is what they had to do to get the ball rolling. But out of necessity more than out of like you would like to do it kind of thing.
That's just part of the process. The better the program gets, the less you have to use the portal. So this is pretty much par for the course. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about ASU in 2025. Can the Arizona State Sun Devils make a run for a 2nd consecutive Big 12 title? From just listening to what Richie said at the end of the last segment, I think it's fairly safe to say experienced team, experienced quarterback. They've got 3 running backs that I think that are pretty good. The biggest question, like with any team, injuries, which you can't predict. And then just the trenches. How well do they adapt to each other, new players, etc., especially offensive line? Off the top of your head, Richie, how many O linemen they got back from last year's starting unit?
Well, you have 4 of your 5 starters, and you did lose Lee
Okay.
Fotanu at center, and Fotanu was an all-conference player, but the guard that they have, left guard Ben Coleman, is moving inside to center. First of all, they like the move. Second of all, there's whispers that the NFL, who is watching him, wants him to move to center. So this is going to be a big year for him, not just for the team's success, but potentially his future success as well. So, but you've got your starting tackles back, you've got your right guard back, and Coleman's moving to center. They bring in Jameto Abigbo from Texas State, who had been a solid starter for them. He will plug in to the left guard position, and they got some younger guys and some veteran guys as well. The offensive line, I'm not overly concerned with, which is funny because a lot of people would have told you the offensive line was a massive concern because of the way they got beat up against Texas, to which I would say, first of all, it's Texas. There's not a lot of offensive lines that were stacking up with Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke and Alfred Collins and Trey Moore and Anthony Hill and everyone else they had on that defense. Like, there's just not a lot of groups. Even Ohio State got pushed around a little bit. But second of all, they played a lot better in the Peach Bowl than they did in week 1. What a concept, right? But they have that continuity this year. I think the offensive line should be one of the bigger strengths for the team for continuity purposes. And I just think that there's some really good football players on that offensive line.
Well, I think that's the key because Dillingham wants to play downhill, run play action, and I'm sure they'll do RPO and other things to get Tyson the ball. But if they're able to run the football and establish the run, you keep your defense off the field. They're probably not, like you were just talking about, like that. Is Arizona State as deep as Texas? No. You have to find a way to keep your guys fresh, and running the football is always the easiest way. You chew up the clock, your defense sucks air on the sidelines. That's not a new theory, but that also fits what Dillingham likes to do. Last year proved it. And they were really good because everybody knew they wanted to run in the ball. Even when Cam was out of the lineup, their backup was good too. So they've got a good group of running backs. I expect them to pound the football. My question for you is not offense. I think they'll be dynamic offensively. On defense, who's going to be the guy that is the tone setter in the front seven? Do they have like a guy the other team has to scheme against, or is it going to be more by committee?
The problem with what you have on this defense right now is there's a lot of solid players. There's a lot of above average players. If I look in the front seven, I see above average players. I don't see we got a game plan against this guy because ASU scraped 20 sacks together last year. Their leader was 4.5 sacks with Clayton Smith. And Clayton Smith, a very good football player, but you have got to get guys that can sack the quarterback. And that to me is without question the biggest question mark that ASU has going into this year. And they return a lot of their pass rush from last year that just wasn't able to dial it up. Maybe that just improves this year with some health and a little more consistency. But I mean, right now in that front seven, there's not really a guy as far as like pass rushing goes you have to stop. I would tell you linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, who was also all conference last year, is very, very good. And he's a downhill linebacker. He loves to hit. He loves to play the run. Interior guy, CJ Fite, stud defensive tackle. He is bulked up. He is over 300 pounds now after taking a couple of years to bulk up and get to that weight. And he's really strong at the point of attack. And he is quick. He gets through the line like a hot knife through butter. So you've got those guys that can be difference makers against the run, but you don't really have that like sack master that Texas Tech has with David Bailey, or I can't think of anyone else in the Big 12 off the top of my head, but a lot of your best teams have that ace pass rusher. How are we going to prepare for the next the next Penn State kid? How are we going to prepare for Reuben Bain, TJ Parker, Colin Simmons, guys like that? ASU doesn't have that guy, but they do have plenty of above average players, and they're certainly terrific against a run as a unit.
That's the key. If teams find that special pass rusher, you have to change your line calls, you change your block. It's a pain to deal with that guy. That's why like Colin Simmons might be the most important guy for Texas here, even more than Arch Manning.
Arch.
Like, yeah, no, I mean, this just in Sark can coach quarterbacks. If they just had an above average guy, they'd still be fine, but you can't replace Colin Simmons. The value for a guy like that is just exponential. If ASU finds that guy, though, to me, it sounds like they should be conservatively a top 4 team in the Big 12. I don't know who, like the league is really hard to grade. The kid at Baylor, I really like him. The guy, the quarterback, he's a really good player. Kid at TCU, Sawyer, he's good. Kid at TCU threw him for almost 4,000 yards last year. Iowa State, they've got a quarterback. Kansas State's got a quarterback. Colorado even brought in a kid to run pass. Like everybody's got a quarterback pretty much.
Yes.
It's going to be a wild league. Besides ASU, give me 2 or 3 teams that you like to have a really good chance going into the final weekend to maybe make the Big 12 title. I'm assuming ASU's on your list. Who would be the other 3?
Yeah, and I mean, I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and tell you how biased I am with ASU and that they will repeat, but I can also sit here and tell you that they brought back the vast majority of the team that was good last year, the second most production in the nation behind Clemson. They should be the definitive favorites. Like, I can tell you that as a fan, and I can tell you that as an analyst, but there is a lot of good competition. And the first one that pops into my mind, Texas Tech, because they loaded up that team, but they also bring back Baron Morton. They are bringing back a lot of that wide receiver room, but I mean, the trenches, both sides of the football. I said David Bailey, but that doesn't even mention Lee Hunter or the guys they got on the offensive line. They killed the trenches. So Texas Tech is one of them. Kansas State is going to be in it every year. And they've got Avery Johnson again at quarterback, and Chris Klieman is still there. Dylan Edwards is someone they're excited about at running back. And then a team back in like January, February, when I made my way too early predictions, I said ASU would play Baylor in the Big 12 championship game. And at the time, I had a lot of raised eyebrows, and rightfully so. But as I've gotten further in, I'm like, I don't feel as bad about that. Now, I am going back and forth between Texas Tech and K-State. It's a three-headed race. I can't think off the top of my head, but it's a really good Baylor team, and they're gonna put up points. They have got a lot of weapons on that offense. So if Dave Aranda can pick up the pace from where they ended last season going into this year, they're going to come out hot, and that's ASU's first Big 12 game of the year in Waco. That could be a preview of your Big 12 championship game in their first play of Big 12 conference action of the year. So those are my 3 teams: Texas Tech, K-State, Baylor. You can switch them in whatever you want, because I think I wake up every day and it's a different team that I think is going to play ASU. But it's one of those 3.
I get it. Like, you could make an argument for Utah, for Colorado, for a lot of different schools, because they all have quarterbacks. And then you're trying to figure out, well, which team's transfer portal class is going to gel with the rest of the team. And that's just a guessing game. Like, that stuff is hard, man. It's really hard. I study this every day. It doesn't make it any easier, because chemistry is something that's not tangible. It's just that rough. So I don't know which one it's going to be. I assume with having Leavitt gives ASU an advantage that other schools don't, because he's been in a playoff game now. Like, that's something you can't teach. Having that stage thrown at you, having the media, having all the scrutiny, and he played pretty well in that game against Texas. That gives me some hope for him, that he's one of those guys that didn't wilt in the moment. He's still going to get better like year 2 within the system and really being the guy. I mean, I know they don't have Cam in the backfield, but the running back room's really good. He might be more efficient. I don't know if the yards will go up or down. It depends on circumstance, but I think he's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the league. So barring injury, I think you're right that they should be in the title game. I mean, defense was staying, like, that's the only thing you got. Like, if they can't rush the passer at the end of the year, that could bite them. Don't get me wrong, but that's the one thing. It's the glaring obvious answer. So that's the low hanging fruit. But other than that, this team's in a pretty good spot. So I think
secondary is elite.
Oh, really?
The secondary is elite. Yes. Xavier Alford is a next level player. If you're looking for a guy to game plan against, it may not be in the front 7. It is Xavier Alford at safety. Okay. Miles Rouser, the safety right next to him, is also really good. Javen Robinson and Keith Abney, your starting corners. Corner 1A, corner 1B, and they are really good. So you're hoping, in a worst case scenario, you get the coverage sacks, because the secondary is phenomenal. That's where you'll be able to make up for it. You're going to have a really difficult time throwing on him this year.
Well, that makes a difference too, because then you can really thwart those late game rallies if you're leading. Every now and then you're have to rely on your defense. You know, it can't just be Sam. So that's important. All right, Richie, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Well, you can always follow me on Twitter at RichieBrads36. That's Brads with a Z. The podcast is there at LO_Sun Devils. We are posting our content everywhere you get your podcasts, Locked on Sun Devils, if you're looking for your guy to keep you up to date with everything. And I got some Big 12 stuff that's around the corner now that we are nearing the season. So now's a little bit of time for everyone. If you want to come roast me and toast me as a Baylor fan or a TCU fan or a Houston fan, come on down. We always talk ball.
All right, brother. I appreciate you coming on the show today. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods, on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere else. We will see you again soon.